want to walk through a metaphoric analogy. Every day we are mentally and heartfully walking through the streets of our lives, and there are these unique moments that transpire where self-realization emerges. We find new discoveries and dig deeper into the meanings of our existence. And as we do this, we enter into different houses, immersing ourselves into these expanding concepts for a while. There's the house of love, the house of ego, house of awareness, house of denial, house of dis-ease, house of health, house of freedom, house of poverty, house of integration, house of separation, house of greed, house of abundance, house of duality, and the list unravels. Sometimes when we enter, the front door becomes locked and we are even enclosed within specific rooms. We can become stuck within these conceptual houses, and sometimes for an insidious amounts of time. We can call these confined states of mind spiritual and psychological traps. So at some point we walk into the house of the ego, and our concept of ego leaves us settling at either ends of extremes until we find balance again. And so in the house of the ego there are many rooms, and upon the discovery of this house we head straight into the room that focuses only on the negative aspects of the ego. Through obsession we become either too influenced by the ego or in complete resistance to the ego, and both sides are unbalanced. Some negative aspects are overjudgment, addictions, competition, the need for approval or praise, taking things personally, the need to dominate, selfishness, and the two biggest themes for me are the lack of self-responsibility, when we always blame others and take on the role of victimhood, and the superiority and arrogance that is seen quite a lot. So there are those that are overdosing on their ego and are ego addicts, and they embody these negative traits and are being controlled by their ego rather than being the one in control. Then you have the resistance fighters. They battle with extreme intensity against the ego, attempting to suppress and throw it away because of the negative potential of the ego. Both are self-sabotaging. So if we leave the room of the negative traits in the house of the ego and we find the room of the positive traits, then we can discover that in fact we do need our ego, and it must exist for a reason, should we decide to utilize it effectively. Some positive aspects of the ego are making healthy comparisons and decisions, discernment, natural stable confidence, individuality, and the ability to define the unique self. And if you strip away the negative aspects and condense it back to its true purpose, then judgment can dissolve and be replaced with discernment, superiority can harmonize, and humble individuality can rise. So a Freudian definition is simply, the ego is the most central part of the mind which mediates around one's surroundings. And it's important to understand that the ego is essentially within us and it's a part of our being, so by fighting the ego, logic reasoning suggests we are actually fighting against an aspect of ourselves. So when we nurture the ego, we can realize that ego provides us with our identity, and that the ego of aspiration and the ego of sage can overcome the ego of suffering. There are spiritual teachings that declare that ego is bad in nature. However, with further exploration, it can be expanded that yes, the ego, when it's not in balance, becomes a secret art of self-sabotage, but yet in balance, the ego is a useful tool of the mind. Negative aspects of the ego only stem from its original purpose because we don't cultivate the gardens of our minds, and that's when the ego can grow into a poisonous weed. When you finally leave the house of ego, you realize it's on the same street and is actually the neighbor of the house of the heart, and that they both must be in harmony with each other. We can't be too in our minds and lose compassion, and we can't be too in our hearts and then forget the useful role of our minds. I wish to elaborate about the ego trap of superiority, which can run parallel with arrogance. This is where we place ourselves separate and above others in our society or community. This also involves judging others that are different and thinking that we are better. I often observe how people place themselves above others because of their level of awareness, and they judge others that are not as awake. This is an ego trap, and it means that compassion and understanding has been blocked from the heart. This keeps us straying from our true self because we didn't incarnate into this planet that's undergoing mass manipulation to then judge the manipulated. We are here to assist and bear our light. So another trap I see a lot is the money trap. Money is not the root of evil. that just shifts the blame and responsibility. And I also think that to a varying degree, it's a lazy solution or resolution, and it keeps us from accepting further responsibilities. So when it comes to money, it's the minds and powers of human beings that create negative or positively orientated consequences. But if more people with open hearts and positive intentions can break through this resistance to money and allow abundance to flow, then we have more tools to help the planet and the people. It's also important to remember that crying over spilt water will distract us from focusing on all the good we can do. Be humble but have courage and dream big. And money can be a really good thing when you're in charge. Like, I'm not a consumer and I'm a divine human being, and I choose not to feed the greedy mouths of corporations, and so I support the right people. I don't fall prey to the consumer paradigm whereby we become hypnotized by the desires of a materialistic society or materialistic values. And you can create a positive cycle where you're conscious of where the money goes and where it comes from, and you can choose to give money where ethics exist. The last trap I will speak about is one that we fall into, called dependency. There is so much to say about this, but today I specifically just want to touch on the parts where we give our power away to gurus, teachers and gods, and we should take what resonates and often synchronizes with our inner questions, but then we should carry on journeying and not become obsessed with a particular being. There are other teachers out there to show you other things, and there are other teachers in the new people you meet every day. We outgrow people and we also outgrow teachers. So it's important to move on and keep traveling with the heart and mind, because who are you? And you have your own signature to bring out. I'd like to summarize this video with a few last words and then share a poem with you. Don't deny the ego, it assists your individuality. Just keep it in balance with an open heart and compassion. Connect with the knowledge that we're all in this together. Be separated, but there is no real separation. If you're angry, recognize the roots and don't pass it on, and be contagious. Be proactive about what you wish to change, especially because you're a creator, an embodiment of the male and female divine energy. Honor that body and return to your sacred and pure state. That is your true authentic self. Keep it real and breathe in love. Don't be shy, don't waste your time. Be aware and raise your consciousness. Beings barricaded from their own freedom. Can you understand the disaster of the design where this is our planet and you don't have the time for your own kind, or the mental capacity to think beyond your own needs? Since we are all in this together and your heart knows this, the long distance and the road between altruism and apathy.